decision of, okay, how do we focus on developing a list of skill sets? I have a list. I'll discuss it in just a bit. How do you develop those skill sets that applies to every industry? And you've seen that list. When I put it on the screen, you're like, yeah, I understand. But the point is not to bring the list up. The point is to come up with a game plan for our kids to one by one focus on those qualities. Number two is, how do you get a career? Number one, you have to bake a cake. Number two, you have to decorate the cake. And number three, you have to box the cake. What does it mean by I say bake the cake? That means you need to be a person who's applying for a job has to be qualified. These are the lists. There's a lot of skill sets. These lists of qualities, if you can master them, if you can acquire them, if you can work on them, it doesn't matter where you go. You're going to be successful in that field. Somebody who's adaptable, who's willing to adjust to different environments, different situations. Someone who's resilient and has a drive, good work ethic. Somebody who's effective in communication, problem-solving skills, leadership. It goes without saying that these are qualities that at a high school or college level, if they can work on these in the weekends during the summer, then they'll have the ability to go anywhere they want. Now, you have somebody who has these amazing qualities. Imagine you have a kid. Let's just give me a name. Give me anybody's name. Ahmed. Let's say Ahmed, he's in college. He's finishing his second year. He has to pick a major. Now, Ahmed spends the next 2 years working on this list. He does an internship. He reads a couple of books. He goes through YouTube lectures. He becomes amazing, well-rounded candidate. But he doesn't have a good resume. He doesn't have a LinkedIn profile. He hasn't put his information online. There's no point. So you not only have to bake a great cake, but you have to decorate it in a way that's appealing. And you'll be surprised, people don't know how to do this. Very few people have a proper resume. And we need people in the community that critique resumes. You can do it online. AI can critique your resume. But an infrastructure that says, hey, can you look at my resume? I go through a lot of resumes, right? I'm an operating officer for a company, alhamdulillah. You'll be surprised, I'll go through 100 resumes and only 10 of them or even 8 of them are properly, they look decent. Somebody took the time to organize it and put the right font. They have a LinkedIn profile, a professional photo LinkedIn profile, right? If I Google your name right now, what would come up? Some of us have never Googled our name, and I don't want you to Google your name from your laptop, because your laptop, it saves your history, so it's gonna show you things that you either clicked on or visited. Go to a brand new laptop or open your browser on private mode and put in your name. You'll see photos, you see videos of you, you'll see your house, you'll see all this information, who lives in your house. So a person who's applying for a job, everything is fair game. So they need to clean up their online image, their public profile. If there's something that they don't like online, they put in the request to remove it. Now, once you have a great cake, once you decorate it, once you have a good resume, you have a great online profile, everything, then what is the final step? It's to get that cake to the businesses, right? It's about interviewing skills. And it's so unfortunate. I've seen people, amazing candidates, great resume. They went to an Ivy League school. Ivy League school, they went there, but they can't interview. They can't talk more than 15 minutes, either because they're nervous or because they just never practiced. On average, a person is supposed to be interviewing at least 5 to 10 times before their first interview. What ends up happening? Some kids, they go to their interview. It's the first time they ever got interviewed by anybody. So again, we need people in the community who say, listen, one day, Sunday morning, we're going to get everyone together and we're just going to have practice interviews, mock interviews. We're going to critique them, critique their resume. Yes, they're going to do terrible the first time. They're going to do terrible the second time. They're going to do terrible the third time. But eventually they'll start getting better at it. So number one, we discussed, don't focus on the destination in the beginning. Don't worry about the perfect major, the perfect job. Focus on the individual. Focus on those core sets. Focus on, number two, developing an online reputation, a brand, a great resume. And number three, practicing interview skills, doing the research. Once this is done, Then comes the final stage. The final stage is a perfect GPS. A GPS that takes you exactly where you need to go. And that is a divine system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Anytime you have to make any decision. Number one, what you're supposed to do, it's a 3-step process. Number one is you do the research and use the aql. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you facilities. You look online. Let's say, for example, you want to buy a car. You do the research. You go to the websites. You maybe even go into a dealership, get the information. Now, number two, the second step is istishara. From the root word shura, this concept of getting advice. Maybe a brother in the community is a mechanic. You go to the brother and say, listen, out of maybe 20 options of cars, I've narrowed it down to maybe 3. I just need your advice. What would you recommend? The brother says, no, this one has bad transmission. This one is a company that's going to get bankrupt. I recommend this company. Okay. So then this brother did the research, asked people for feedback, and then did Salatul Istikhara and made the dua for Istikhara, which we're going to review. It's a beautiful dua, which we should really understand deeply, because it shows us our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the same process applies to career work. You have a high school student, a college student, or even somebody who just graduated and they're looking for a job. Step number one is what? Step number one, in terms of career, the direction they should go is right in the middle. It's a combination of they have certain skill sets, they have a certain inclination or passion, and the situation makes sense. So what do I mean by that? So a person says, what do I do? Should I go into engineering? Should I go into medicine? Should I go into law? Should I go into marketing and sales? Well, okay, what are your skill sets? There are assessments that review many aspects. Somebody might be good at math, analytical. They're much more data driven. Then for that person, a job that interacts with people may not be the best suited option. Somebody else is a really good talker. They understand people, they read people, they have high emotional intelligence. Then they're much more front-facing, right? So number one is taking a skills assessment. There are a lot of skills assessments out there. There are really great books out there, right? For example, like Strength Finder is one of them, where the child or the person takes a long assessment, and the assessment says, for example, based on all the questions you answered, from our recommendation, maybe you should go into an engineer, architect, consultant, planner. Maybe somebody else would say, well, you should be a career counselor, a social worker, you should be a teacher. Maybe somebody else will say you should be an artist or counselor or psychologist. So these skill sets usually apply to certain areas. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us differently. Some of us have something that we do, we never get tired. Some of us, we do things after work. We're done with work, and then we do something on the weekend that makes us feel alive. We can do it all night, all morning. It never gets tired. Some people love teaching. Some people love reading. Some people love analyzing or writing, whatever the case may be. That's a passion, right? So let's say you have a child who is analytical, loves math, very data-driven, and has a passion for software and computers and technology. Okay, good. Now these two things are now pushing you in one direction. The final thing is a situation. Situation is there's 17 dentists in the family. Their father owns a dental practice. Now, if the skill sets and passion align with dentistry, then you should go into dentistry. It's a no-brainer, right? Or let's say in the community, there's a very strong lawyer association, the Islamic Lawyer Association of MCNJ, for example. I don't know if there is one. Maybe there is. And they are so strong, if you were to just give your name, they say, listen, we'll take care of you, we'll give you an internship, we'll pick you up. Then that situation is unique to you. Somebody who lives in Pennsylvania doesn't have access like you do if you live in MCNJ. Does that make sense? So these three areas will push someone towards a direction. That's step number one. Step number two is once they're able to get that information, then they do the istishara, mentorship, right? There's a masjid in Chicago. They have a big brother Big Sister program. Every person in the masjid has someone as a big brother and someone as a younger brother. So what that means is there's a college student who has somebody assigned to him who's a high school student. And the college student has someone assigned above him who's a graduate. The graduate who's already working for 3-4 years has someone assigned to them that's been in the field for 10-15 years. So everyone in the community is linked to someone and they're mentoring each other. And I think once a year they have a big dinner and everyone gets together. But this concept of mentorship is a really big deal. Rasulullah ﷺ says a beautiful hadith that a Muslim to another Muslim has 5 rights. In another narration, 6 rights. Right? One of them is when someone says salam, you respond with salam. One of them is someone who's sick, you visit them when they're sick. Someone who invites you to a feast, you accept their invitation. Someone who sneezes, you say yarhamukallah. Right? Someone who passes away, you attend their janazah. But one of them, in the 6th, is when someone comes to you for advice, you give them advice. And it's not just coming for advice. You should feel comfortable calling someone for advice. We live in a community that nobody needs to know. Oh, I'm having problems with my marriage. Nobody can know about that. If anybody asks, I have an amazing, perfect marriage. I'm failing all my classes. Nobody can know that. How are you doing in school? Oh, I'm doing great. Honors, first class. Why? Because we want to show this image. What are people going to think? Log kya bolenge? You're always worrying about other people. And what ends up happening, young brothers and sisters are suffering alone. We should have a community where everyone feels comfortable. They call you, hey, can I have chai? Can I have lunch? I have some questions. I'm having issues with, somebody who's married 10 years, you call them, hey, can I have lunch? I'm having issues with my marriage. Okay, no problem. Bismillah. Hey, listen, I heard my job is going to get layoffs and I need to start preparing. Can you review my resume and give me some advice or help me get a link? Yeah, no problem. It's a culture of helping each other out. So this mentorship is part of the equation, but there needs to be a system, a community that's welcoming that. And if you don't know, if somebody, I'm a pharmacist, I'm in the field of pharmacy. If someone comes to me regarding something to do with, let's say, like dentistry, I may not know, but I'll refer them to somebody who knows dentistry. A friend of a friend of a friend, right? And when you help someone, right? When you go just 10, 15 minutes, and that person's life is in order now because of the 10, 15 minutes you give. The reward and hasanat that you get is something that cannot be compared to praying salah or reading Quran. Rasulullah ﷺ made it a habit that he would find people in need. He wouldn't wait for them to ask him, I'm hungry, hey, I need help. He would go out, find them, and not without even asking, go and offer them help. It was this sense of duty and urgency. So mentorship is now step number 1. You did the work, you did the skills test, you found out your passion, you looked at your situation. Then step number 2, you went out, you got mentorship, you got advice, you got feedback. Hey, listen, brother, or hey, sister, I'm thinking about these 3 areas. These are my skill sets. These are my reports. I'm not really sure what direction to go. No problem. You ask 1 person, you ask 2 people. Then, after getting mentorship, comes the final step, which is the dua of istikhara. Tie your camel and put your trust in Allah. Some scholars say that to say tie your camel and then put your trust in Allah isn't accurate. It's the same thing. You're doing it at the same time. You're working hard with the trust in Allah, and you're trusting Allah while you're working hard. What do we have in the community nowadays? On one extreme, this brother is out there applying for jobs, building his resume, marketing, mentorship, but he never prays. And in his mind, whatever I get from this effort is all 100% me. Then you have the other extreme. The brother's here for Fajr, praying, Salah, reading Quran, making dua, which is perfect. He said, brother, how's your job search going? Oh, I'm making dua, everything will be fine. Okay, great. So what have you done so far? Well, I haven't done anything. Bro, but did you put your resume up? Oh, I don't need a resume. Like an angel's gonna come and say, and all of a sudden he's gonna give him a job. There's a balance. And Rasulullah ﷺ told us that balance. We need to do our work and then put our trust in Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do what we can. And then istikhara comes. So up till this point, any questions, feedback, comments? Okay, now let's go through the dua of istikhara, which is a beautiful dua. I made a handout. It looks like this. I have a digital format. Brother Najib has it. He'll send it out in the WhatsApp group. But this handout is a dua broken down by the lines. It has the Arabic, it has the translation, and it has the transliteration. What's a transliteration for somebody who doesn't maybe know how to read Arabic? Now, why is it significant? Because the hadith that talks about the dua of istikhara, Rasulullah, when he teaches that, the Sahaba would say that Rasulullah taught us the dua of istikhara like he taught us the Quran. So when that is said, that means the Arabic is important. You can't just read the translation. There's a significance to the Arabic. You should recite it, right? So I'm gonna quickly go through it. And while I'm going through it, I want you to kind of ask yourself and understand the themes of this dua, right? So in this dua, so first obviously you pray 2 rakat nafil salah with the intention of istikhara, right? The same rules apply for wudu, facing the qibla, being clean. After you pray the 2 rakat nafil salah, then you make this dua. Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmik. Oh Allah, I seek that which is good from you by the means of your knowledge. So, oh Allah, you know what's good for me. I might think I know this is good for me, but you know what's actually good for me. وَأَسْتَقْدِرُكَ بِقُدْرَتِكَ. And I seek the ability to do what I need by the means of your power. Means you not only know what's good for me, you're the only one that can make it happen. I have no control over my life except what you have given control over me for. وَأَسْأَلُكَ مِنْ فَضْلِكَ الْعَظِيمِ. And I ask you to grant me from your great fadl, from your blessing. فَإِنَّكَ تَقْدِرُ وَلَا أَقْدِرُ. Most definitely, you are fully capable and I'm incapable. When you go through these du'as, you understand it's not just asking Allah for something. You're reaffirming Allah as Rabb and you as Abd. You're acknowledging, Ya Allah, I know nothing, you know everything. Ya Allah, I have no power, you have full power. Ya Allah, this decision that I'm gonna make, even if you're not sure, sometimes you're split between 2 or 3 options, then you do istikhara. Even if you know there's only one option, there's nothing wrong with doing istikhara. Because istikhara is, oh Allah, I don't do anything without asking you first. Oh Allah, there's nothing in my life everything in my life I need your help with. I can't do anything alone. So فَإِنَّكَ تَقْدِرُ وَلَا أَقْدِرُ وَتَعْلَمُ وَلَا أَعْلَمُ. And you know everything and I know nothing. وَأَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. And you are Allam. You are the complete knower of all the ghaib and hidden things. There's many things that we don't see. Many things we don't know. You might be applying for a job, you don't know the politics of that job. Or you don't know the people and the intent of your future supervisor. Everything looks great. Job offer is there, salary is there, vacation benefits is there. You're like, this is the perfect job, and you're applying for it. But you don't know this job, if you were to get it, it would ruin your life. You don't know. Allahumma in kunta ta'lamu anna hadha al-amra khayrun li fi dini wa ma'ashi wa 'aqibati amri. Oh Allah, if you know this issue or decision is good for me in my religious affairs and in my worldly affairs and in my akhirah, this decision, faqdurhu li, make it possible for me. But look at the beauty, not just make it possible for me, wa yassirhu li, and make it easy for me. Make it possible and make it easy for me. وَبَارِكْ لِي فِيهِ, and put barakah in it. Right? You're asking for the premium package. Make it easy for me, put barakah in it. And then when you go on, what's beautiful in this part where Allahumma in kunta ta'lamu anna hadha al-amra sharrun li fi dini wa ma'ashi wa 'aqibati amri. Where you say, oh Allah, if this is not good for me, this is not good for my akhirah, then distance me from it. And what's beautiful is, I think some slides are missing. Yeah. فَاصْرِفْهُ عَنِّي وَاصْرِفْنِي عَنْهُ. What's beautiful is, turn me away from it and turn it away from me. Meaning just keep it far away from me. And what ends up happening sometimes is, let's say a brother's trying to get married. and there's a potential rishta, and they're doing istikhara, and it ends up not working out. Okay, you do istikhara, it doesn't work out. The person still needs to get married. The person is still in a situation of need. And so the dua, what it says is, it continues to say that ثُمَّ أَرْضِنِي بِهِ, and once I've gotten it, make it good for me, make me satisfied with it, and still give me khair, meaning if it's not now, send me something in the future. And I'll end there's one narration where the final part of it is ثُمَّ أَرْضِي بِهِ ثُمَّ أَرْضِهِ بِهِ ثُمَّ رَدِّي بِهِ. So there's two different narrations. أَرْضِنِي بِهِ and Raddini bi. So some people, when they are deciding on a decision, they take a very long time. They look at all the options. They think about it, they check it, double check it, triple check it. But once they make the decision, they don't have to worry about it again. There's no second thoughts. Some people, when they make the decision, they're always worried. Did I make the right decision? They call a friend, I'm not sure, I'm having second thoughts. So Rasulullah ﷺ knows human beings. In one situation, it says, oh Allah, make me satisfied once. The other situation, oh Allah, continue to make me satisfied. And so, with that istikhara dua, you do that. There's no situation where whatever option that you have, you will always end up in a situation where you never regret it. Number two, why do we want the money? Why do we want the freedom? Why do you want the flexibility? At the end of the day, it's for happiness, for success. There are some people who spent 20, 30 years, they got to their corporate level position, they got the money, house paid off, they have big retirement funds, but they can't sleep at night. Their life is miserable, right? So ultimate goal is that happiness and success that only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no one else. And the last thing is, there's a list of things there's a list of secular things. If I go to the store and buy milk, it has nothing to do with religion. If I wear my clothes, if I get married, I have kids, I go to work, I go out to a restaurant, that's secular things. A Muslim does it, a non-Muslim does it. These are all things human beings do. Then there's another list of items that are religious items. Reading Quran, fasting, zakah, dhikr, dua. What's beautiful about Islam is you can take the list of non-religious items and put it into the list of religious items. How? Just by your intention. In the morning, before you go to work, before you get into the car, or while you're in your car, Ya Allah, you've commanded me to take care of my family. Ya Allah, I'm going to make money and work for your sake, for barakah, and make it easy for me. That entire day of work is now considered ibadah. When you go into work and you're telling yourself that I need to be the best character, like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to my co-workers, to my boss, to my employees, to the patients, to the customers, with that intention, I want to be the best character, your work is now ibadah. Just from intention. Now, could you imagine on the day of judgment, you come to Allah, Ya Allah, I wanted to become a hafiz, I couldn't become a hafiz. I worked my entire life for my family. On the days, on the nights, on the weekends. My entire life I've spent for my family. Ya Allah, I wanted to go on Hajj and Umrah, and I wanted to open up a school, and I wanted to do so much. I couldn't do it. But Ya Allah, one thing I made consistent for your sake alone is that every time I went to work, every time I paid a bill, every time I did something for financially my responsibility for the household, I always remembered you and I always connected it with you. And just from this small intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take that entire 50, 60, 70 years of working and put into category of ibadah, and it could be that one thing that gets you into the Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us one of them. So with that, my part of the presentation is done. We'll open it up for question, answer, any feedback, anything that maybe you or your kids have questions on specifically, or if you want to share something, we have about 10, 15 minutes. Yes, Bismillah. You can use the. You know, you can come sit.
That's okay. You said,
You can-
you said.
Use the other mic too, the other one.
I just want to use the other microphone so we can hear me. This one. This one. I got this one. I got this one.
Okay.
Assalamu Thank you so much for a wonderful career presentation. I just want to plug something which is slightly in a different direction. It's a career, but for the youngsters, how many youngsters wanted to be a fireman or a firewoman? Driving a fire truck, honking the horn.
I think they're all downstairs playing right now.
They're all downstairs playing. Where are the kids?
Or maybe they're preventing the fire.
All right, so there's, how about the other generation? You want to be fireman, firewoman? All right, so put this date down. It's a career if you're interested. We talk about passion, and this is something that the speaker mentioned. If you want to do something out of passion, so everybody knows the local firehouse right here on what street? What street is that? St. George's Road. The local firehouse, right? October 9th and 10th. This Forest Firehouse. They have an open house. And that open house is from 7:30 till 9 o'clock. So if anybody wants to go into the firehouse and look at what's being done there, please go. And they have a big sign in front of the building, volunteers needed. So for the youngsters who want to consider doing something different or something to do in your spare time, this is a terrific volunteer opportunity. And maybe it could be a career, because firemen
For sure.
who are paid do have excellent benefits with the city. And if anyone is in the Hope Lawn area in Woodbridge, if you live in the Hope Lawn area, the same day, the Hope Lawn Fire Department has an event at 8 o'clock, which is a little bit later. So from 8 till 10 o'clock in Hope Lawn. So there's two different opportunities.
Great,
So
no,
thank you
Jazakallah
so
khair.
much.
A lot of times, obviously as parents, we want the best for our kids. We want them to have a great career, high-paying career. But we have to understand that if you are good at what you do, you will always be successful. One of the things my father used to tell me is that if you're going to be a janitor, be the best janitor in the entire world. Because if you're the best in your field, you're guaranteed to be successful. The issue is there are some situations where a child is forced into a career. They spend 10, 15 years getting into a position. They get unbelievable amount of loans, and ultimately what ends up happening, they hate it. And they leave that career. Or God forbid, even worse, they're in that career, but it ruins their life, it ruins their marriage, right? So there's a lot of considerations. I think identifying every child, if you have multiple kids, you'll know every kid is different. And there's a reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written that for that reason. And one thing I want to mention, kind of relating to this question, if you go to a university, let's say there's 20 majors, 20 different majors a kid can choose from, okay? From those 20 majors, each major has 5 career paths, okay? And from those career paths, there's maybe about 20 to 30 big companies. If you do the math, you can have anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 different combinations. There's so many options. And the question is, what if I pick the wrong one? And the whole point of this whole talk that I gave you, that if you do these steps, you will never pick the wrong one. You will never regret any decision. Because number one, it has barakah in it. And number two, it is a divine process where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing it. If it's good for you, it's going to happen. If it's not going to happen. And keep in mind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows every possible outcome. Think about that for a second. What if you were born in a different country? What if you got married to somebody else? What if you were born a different year? Wouldn't your life take a different direction? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows every single possible outcome of your life. And out of all the possible outcomes, Allah chose the current life you're working. Allah chose this life for you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that this path that you're taking right now is going to be a path that gets you into Jannah. With all the difficulties and all the problems. And I've mentioned this before in many khutbahs. Why do you think sometimes our family causes us the most frustration sometimes? There's a reason for that. Why do you think our kids know exactly what buttons to press, or our wife or husband know exactly what to say to get us upset? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose that person for you. Allah chose your kids for you. Allah chose your community, chose your in-laws. You didn't choose it, Allah chose it. Because out of any possible person on this earth, if you were assigned to another family, you wouldn't be able to handle it. And they wouldn't be able to handle you. So understanding the career is one part, but in general, this life that you're living, with all its problems, Allah chose that for you. And it is the best thing that can happen to you. Sometimes you think, man, if I did this degree, if only I went back and I applied to this company, if only I married this other person. This list goes on and on. Guess what? If that happened, you would have been miserable. Guaranteed. The fact that you're in this situation now is because it's what's best for you. So this concept we have to teach our kids. We have to remind our kids. Do what you can, and then put your trust in Allah. Then you don't have to worry. Yes?
Can you explain just in a few minutes the premise behind Strength Finders, the assessment tool?
Sure. So the Strength Finder is essentially, it's a book, and also it's an online platform that asks you a lot of questions, right? It depends on what package you pick, but let's just say 100 questions. It will ask you in different ways, okay? And for example, it might ask, if you had to spend a Friday night with friends, what would you do? Sorry, if you had to spend a Friday night, no work, would you stay at home and read a book? Would you go out with friends to maybe a restaurant? Would you go and play basketball? So there's all these questions. Based on your response, it calculates, okay, you're this type of personality. And once it identifies you're this type of personality, it then says, based on data and statistics, you're going to be good in these different fields. Now, that doesn't mean, oh man, I got this result, I have to be a garbage man. But the test says I have to be a garbage man, I have to be a garbage man. No, of course not. But it's a suggestion. You use that, and by the way, garbage men make a lot of money. It's not a bad field. Some of them say 6 figures, more than $100,000. But point is, these are tools for a reason. It's supposed to minimize the gray area. It's supposed to help you make decisions. Even right now, if you're working at a career or a job, you should take this. Your direct supervisor can know, hey, listen, these are my skill sets, and maybe they'll promote you, put you in another department. So these are good to know about and be familiar with. If you buy the book, I think it's $20, you get a free online assessment. So it's worth it to do that. Strength Finders. There's a lot of different ones, but that's one of them. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think one of the core principles is that after you've identified your strengths, if you focus on those, you can go further in life. And if you spend your whole life trying to chase what you're not good at, you can only be average at best. That's the
very good point. Yes.
So the whole theory is like, I mean, if you're an athlete like Michael Phelps,
yeah,
he was built for a certain type of swimming and a stroke. If he decides, I really like diving, and I'm just going to compete at diving, he would not be where he is today, right? Because he didn't choose the one thing and he stuck with the one all the way through. So I know the dean of St. John's University actually gives Strength Finders to every incoming class.
Wow.
All students have to take it.
Amazing.
So, and there's a free version, I think, online, a reduced version.
Okay.
It's free online, so it's worth taking for all of for ourselves and our children.
So if anyone didn't hear, so basically the point of Strength Finder is not to tell you you're good at these things and you're bad at these things. It's to focus on what you're good at. And as a company, what they typically do, that's why I mentioned a personality test, is they want a team that's balanced. So let's say there's 4 people on a team. one person has leadership skills, one person has data skills, one person has communication skills, and one person has, let's just say, conflict management skills. When those 4 people work together, it's a very effective team. But let's say you have 4 people on a team, they're all leaders. Everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody's making decisions. It's a mess. So when you do these assessments, it's not just to find your strength, which makes sense, but it's also to complement you, right? So if you're, to know that is a big deal, right? Or if you're a manager and your employees haven't done it, it's a big deal. It helps a lot. And actually, Yaqeen Institute, as a side point, Yaqeen Institute is a great organization, yaqeen.com.org. They have an Islamic assessment test. Islamic personality test. What that means is you answer the question, then it tells you, okay, you're much more of a spiritual person. Some of our youth, they can go through a year's worth of classes of Aqidah and Sirah and Quran and Hadith, but it doesn't really change them. You take them to Umrah once, their life has changed. They're much more experiential. They need to see things and feel things. They need to see 100,000 Muslims in one location. They need to hear the adhan. There's one thing to learn about the cave of Hira and the revelation of Iqra. It's another thing to take them there and show them, look, that was the mountain. But on the flip side, some kids, you take them Umrah every year, they get bored. They don't want to go. But they need something academic, they're intellectual. So it depends. Every personality is different. So these tests are very useful, and we should look into them more. I think we have a few more minutes before we end, inshallah. So as an action item, inshallah, I don't know who's going to be in charge of it, but I would recommend you pick one person and they just form a career committee. Like I think MCMC has an IT department committee. They have a medical committee. I'm sure you guys have something similar, but I think it'd be good if there's a flyer. You walk in and you say, okay, if you want to be in medicine, scan this QR code and you get linked up with them. If you want to do this, so I think inshallah that'd be really helpful and growing whatever you already have. Okay, inshallah we'll make dua. That sound good? Okay. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Subhanalladhi rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
We have a question.
Yeah.
From the sister.
we can talk. I'm here, inshallah. Come up to me. I can answer, inshallah. Like, okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't need to be on there. I didn't realize my.
Same.